So, here we go, one more civilization from Latin America. The instructions are the same as they've always been, blah, blah, blah. This culture we'll be talking about are known as the Inca. Unlike the Maya and the Aztecs, they were located in South America. You'll see that this led them to do some things very differently from the other tribes. Still, they share much in common. For example, as you can see from this artwork, the Inca had plenty of gold. This led the Spanish to go after them just like the others.
The Inca and their ancestors stood in awe of the power of nature. In addition to Inti, the sun god, they worshipped the mountains, the earth, thunder, and the moon. They expanded their pantheon with each new people they conquered, incorporating new idols and spirits as their own. But all people of the region agreed on one universal creator, called Viracocha. As the Inca left no written record, we know their gods as we know much of Indian life, from chronicles of the Spaniards. Pedro de Cieza de Leon arrived in 1535.
The Indians say that for many days the world was in darkness, and then there emerged from the island of Titicaca the sun in its splendor, at which all rejoiced. And there came a man, large of stature, who had great powers. They called him Father of the Sun.
Hey, that video was cool. That leaves me wanting to ask just one question.
Who are these people?
Oh look, we are starting with geography. Way to shake things up, Rosa. Okay, behind me you'll see a super high-tech FBI map of the world. We'll use some crazy technology to highlight the area we are going to focus on. The long green strip there in South America is the Inca Empire. As you can see, it is very skinny. That's because they bumped up to the Andes Mountains and those things were huge. It is pretty amazing to note that the Incas actually built many of their cities right on top of the mountains. Remember, the Mayans built in a jungle and the Aztecs on an island, but building on gigantic mountains is even cooler. These mountains were so high that the air became very thin. This means that the oxygen content was low, so you could easily get tired. The Incas though adapted easily to it. Also, the terrain was very rough, I mean obviously. Mountains are just giant rocks. Another interesting thing is that many of the mountains were actually active volcanoes. Imagine if one day lava just started coming up out of the floor. That would be kind of scary. The Incas had access to water high up in the mountains thanks to a lake called Lake Titicaca. Go ahead, laugh all you want, that's really what they called it. In the Incan language, Titicaca means Rock of the Puma. I guess that's a little different than it means to us. Now, if you'll excuse me, I'm going to take a break while you get all the giggles out of your system.
Lake Titicaca, oh Lake Titicaca, it's between Bolivia and Peru. Lake Titicaca, oh Lake Titicaca, with waters tranquil and blue. Oh Lake Titicaca, yes Lake Titicaca, why do we sing of its fame? Lake Titicaca, yes Lake Titicaca, 'cause we really like saying its name, Titicaca!
The Inca and their ancestors thrived by adapting to an unforgiving environment. Their bodies evolved, developing larger lungs and short, powerful legs to negotiate the steep mountain terrain. They domesticated animals like llama and alpaca, providing meat and wool for warm clothing. And perhaps most importantly, they cultivated a vast array of crops that would thrive in the diverse environment of the region. was the most valued. They grew tomatoes and peanuts and over 200 types of potatoes. They cultivated cocoa plants, chewing the leaves to ward off hunger and fatigue. Generation upon generation had survived here, each building on the successes and learning from the failures of those who preceded them. As the population grew, they reshaped the landscape to meet their needs. Rivers were straightened, canals dug, and millions of acres of mountainside carved into terraced farmland. Like stairs to the heavens, they amazed the Spanish, who called the mountain range by their word for terrace, Andines.
Okay, are you over it now? But now let's talk about economics. Economics, remember, tells us how societies deal with providing for everyone's needs. That was really hard up in the mountains. The problem, as I said, is that the terrain was really rough. You can't exactly grow crops on a big slope. They can too easily get washed out in rain or mudslides, and it is really hard to farm that way anyway. So, the Incas came up with a great solution. They just cut the mountains into stairs, and farmed that way. Interestingly, the Mayans did this too. This technique is called terrace farming. Today it is used in many parts of the world. This turns steep hills into wonderful flat plots of land. The Incas also found that, by growing different crops at different heights on the terraces, they could produce more food overall. For example, in the higher altitudes they raised animals. Fruits and vegetables would never be able to survive the cold weather up there, but animals did fine. By combining these two techniques, the Incas were able to provide enough food to support a very large population. Way to go, Incas, and way to go, economics. Time to take a